Energy for Profitability, an initiative of the Association of Ghana Industries in partnership with the German Development Corporation, implemented by GIZ. What if the answer to powering and running a clean, efficient, and sustainable business now lies within your reach? What would you do? All you have to do is reach out to the AGI Energy Service Center. We provide tailor-made energy-saving solutions to businesses. We provide you with solar feasibility studies, energy audits, energy efficiency trainings, on 0507 977 902. AGI-ESC, Sustainable Energy for Profitability, an initiative of the Association of Ghana Industries in partnership with the German Development Corporation, implemented by GIZ. What if the answer to powering and running a clean, efficient, and sustainable business now lies within your reach? What would you do? All you have to do is reach out to the AGI Energy Service Center. We provide tailor-made energy-saving solutions to businesses. We provide you with solar feasibility studies, energy audits, energy efficiency trainings, and financial advisory services. Visit AGI-ESC.com for more information or call us on 0507 977 902. AGI-ESC. An initiative of the Association of Ghana Industries in partnership with the German Development.
All right. Thank you all very much. I hope you can all hear me. It's 11:10 a.m. And thank you all for joining. Welcome to our monthly webinar. This webinar is organized by the AGI Energy Service Center. My name is Isaac Batini. I work with the AGI Energy Service Center. I will be the moderator for today's event. I have on the call Mr. Hubert Zan, who is Assistant Manager at the Energy Commission in charge of energy efficiency regulations. I also have my colleagues on the call who will be assisting me today to moderate today's session. Our Chief Technical Officer, Babel, is on the call. Our technical expert, Kofi Enim, is also on the call. Our admin officer is also on the call. So thank you all very much for joining. Babel, I want to just hand over to you to give us some opening remarks from your end.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I see there are quite lots of people entered here, our Zoom meeting. So everybody, good morning. Thank you, Isaac, for facilitating that, making that webinar happen today. And welcome, Mr. Zan. We are very much looking forward to your presentation today. Short background, for those who don't know, the Energy Service Center, we are a department at the Association of Ghana Industries. Been working for 5 years in the sector of renewable energy and energy efficiency as an honest broker, meaning we are giving advice, independent advice on how you get your business more efficient or add solar PV or implement other energy efficient measures like carbon accounting, decarbonization, or we also train service provider in the sector. So this has been our main focuses. We're working with the industries and with the commercial sector. So all members of the Association of Ghana Industry currently. The Association of Ghana Industry says about 1,500 members, a little bit more. So it's quite one of the largest associations here in Ghana from the sector, from the business sector. Yeah, so I'm very happy we have started this webinar series, and today, yes, Isaac will go a bit more into detail maybe, or Mr. Zan will come directly in with it. We are looking into the regulations which actually have been kicked off in 2022, so it's about 2 years ago, and they are supposed to become more into practice, and be more implemented. So Mr. Zan will talk today not only about the regulations and what we have to do, but also what we can get out of that. So it's usually these regulations are not always negative. It doesn't only mean that we are forced to do something and forced to comply with, but it also will have advantages at the end of the day. And I'm very happy to hear about that today. And yeah, I hope you enjoy our webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abel. Thank you for that remark. Distinguished guests, so we are gathered here to hear from an expert from the Energy Commission on Ghana's new energy efficiency standards and labeling regulations, which was passed in 2022. There was a 1-year moratorium, and then it started implementation late last year. So he will tell us about the 20 or so regulations, the appliances that it covers. And of course, since we are from industry and also for households, what are some of the energy saving opportunities in there for us? To help us do this, we have our expert from the Energy Commission, Mr. Hubert Zan. Let me just read his profile quickly, and then we'll have him on the call. So Mr. Hubert Zan is the Assistant Manager at the Energy Commission in charge of energy efficiency regulations, which is a unit under the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Directorate of the Ghana Energy Commission. He is an energy transformation expert who has worked with for more than a decade enforcing national regulations on energy efficiency and environment. His passion to see Africa free of inefficient and obsolete appliances has made him a champion and a strong advocate of energy efficiency by advocating for anti-dumping regulations in Ghana. He is a focal person for the Eco-Fridges Go project at the Ghana Energy Commission, which introduces innovative financial mechanisms to help salaried workers own highly efficient appliances. He's an advocate on the Super Efficient Appliance Deployment SEAD initiative, and is promoting green public procurement of cooling appliances. Please help me welcome Mr. Hubert Zan to take us through today's presentation. Zan, over to you. You can share your screen. Oh, sorry, I think he dropped off on the call, so he's rejoined now. So, Mr. Zan, welcome back. Sorry about that. If you can just quickly share your screen and let's begin the presentation.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm not sure if you can upload from your end. I was just struggling a bit with my computer here. So if you don't mind, can you upload from your end?
Then let me quickly handle that. Give me a minute. Is it visible now?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Let me put it in presentation.
Yes, so maybe perhaps you just put it in presentation mode.
Yes,
And
change it now. Can you see it now?
yes, perfect.
All right.
Okay, so thank you very much, Isaac and the team, and good morning to all listening to us today. As rightly introduced, my name is Hubert Zan. I work with the Energy Commission as the Assistant Manager in charge of energy efficiency regulations. Next slide, please. Right, so as we go into the discussions today, I would want us to reflect about some key terminologies or some key words that are in relation to the basis for some of these regulations we have passed. And one of them that is commonly known is environmental dumping. Now, when we environmental dumping, what is the first thing that comes to our mind? And I'm sure when we ask those listening today, some of the things that come to mind is waste, boiler, unwanted items. So these are all synonymous to the word dumping. However, environmental dumping is defined as exporting products to another country or territory that contains hazardous substances. Now, these hazardous substances, specifically with cooling, looks at the refrigerant component. Now, dumping is also looked at as having environmental performance lower than is in the best interest of consumers or contrary to the interest of the public or global common. So apart from the hazardous substances, performance of products going into another market can also be termed as dumping, where substandard appliances are being moved to other countries. Now, all of this can undermine the ability of the important
Hello. Hello.
I'm not hearing anything. I think
Yes,
I don't know. Yeah, I wondered whether it was my
I think he
headphone.
has dropped off. He's on
Yeah.
he's at the airport right now, so we're having some connectivity problems with his dropped off. Sorry about that. Our expert is currently not in the country. He's out of the jurisdiction and he's traveling back now. So he graciously accepted to do this from the airport for us. And we seem to be having some connectivity issues. Okay. Sure you'll join very shortly. Sorry, I was sharing my screen, but I thought it was being shared. Apparently, it was not being shared. Thanks for drawing my attention, Kofi. So we are still waiting for Mr. Zan to join. As I mentioned earlier, he's on the move. He's actually at the airport now, and we seem to be having some connectivity issues with him at his end. So once he joins the meeting, we'll continue with the presentation. Thank you for your patience. In the meantime, so as Barbara mentioned, this webinar is organized by the AGI Energy Service Center. We are Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Advisory Center at the AGI, the Association of Ghana Industries. We have been in existence since 2019, supporting industries, both commercial and industrial companies in Ghana, to transition to green energy. So we have been supporting companies with energy audits, solar feasibility assessments, transaction advisory service, project development, and owners engineering services at the center. We are also into capacity development. So we've been organizing a lot of training programs for energy managers, sustainability personnel, and all interested people from industry. We have training programs on how to conduct ISO 50002 energy audits. We also have training programs on GAG accounting, which is a practical training to teach you on how you can undertake carbon footprint assessment of your company and also develop a roadmap for decarbonization. We also have training on solar installation maintenance, design, installation, and maintenance. We also have a training on solar PV and thermal maintenance. And of course, we are the sole center licensed by the Association of Energy Engineers to run their certification programs in Ghana. So we have a number of AE certification programs that we have been running in Ghana. We ran the first one in June. We'll have another one in November. So if you're interested in being a certified energy manager, a certified carbon accounting professional, you can contact a certified energy auditor, certified industrial energy professional, and other certifications we have available at the center here. You can always find more information about us on our website, www.agi-esc.com. www.agi-esc.com. You'll find more information about our training programs and our services. We're always available to support you. We are hosted at the AGI Secretariat at Northwich. You can always find us there. Do we have Mr. Zan on the call? We don't seem to have him. So I'm sorry. Yeah, Sheila, please come in. Let me give you. Okay. Yeah, Sheila, let me hear from you.
Oh, sorry, it was by accident. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were reading that. Okay, Mashood say, Isaac, can you give us an idea what upcoming trainings you have planned from now to December? Thank you, Mashood. So from now till December, we have an energy audit training in September, late September. We have an energy audit training. It's a 4-day practical training on how you can conduct ISO 50002 energy audits in your facility. We also have a training program after that, also on GAG accounting, carbon accounting. It's also in November, which is a 3-day training program for you on how you can undertake carbon footprint accounting for your organization. And of course, also in November, we have 2 certification programs, Certified Energy Manager and Certified Energy Auditor. So those are the training programs that we have coming up. Let me see if Mr. Zan has joined the meeting. Kofi, have you seen him?
No, he hasn't joined yet. We're still waiting for him to join in.
Okay, I see him in the waiting.
Just join.
Yes, let me give him the right to.
Yes, hello. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, Hubert, we can hear you now.
Unbelievable. This is what technology can do. I must really apologize for this.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
So should I continue the presentation?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. A minute, let me share my set. Is my screen visible?
Yes, this is fine.
All right, so I'm putting it in presentation mode now.
Okay, so while you put it in presentation mode, I must apologize for this technological glitch. So whilst you do that, I think basically we're talking about the dumping issue.
Yes, is my screen visible now? Hubert?
Yes, I can see your screen, but it's still in the same mode.
It's in a still mode.
Yes. So maybe if you can, please move to the next slide. Let me see if it's moving.
Has it moved?
I think others are still seeing it in the same mode. You have seen a comment.
Okay, so let me just, I will end it and restart again, okay?
Right.
Okay, that's fine. So let me just send this. Is my screen visible now?
Yes, Isaac, it's visible.
Okay. Is it moving?
It's moving too. It's good now.
Okay. All right. So Hubert,
Yes,
you can
this is
take
fine
over.
now.
Yeah.
Right. So as we mentioned, the issues of dumping, the question is what does it entail? Basically, moving up to different regions which are not suitable for the consumers can also be termed as dumping. And in the space of refrigerants, we all know that as part of the Montreal Protocol, there are efforts to phase out some refrigerants or gases, especially R12, which was commonly known as the CFC-based refrigerant. 12, other refrigerants that have been used for cooling appliances have been improved over the years. And when you look at what is happening now, the Kigali Amendment, which was signed in 2016, obliged countries to be able to move away from obsolete appliances to new appliances that will also cater for efficiency. Now, the new cooling appliances, most of them contain low global warming potential. And so this affects its efficiency as well. Used products, on the other hand, are typically known not to meet what we call the minimum energy performance standards. Every appliance has a lifespan. But what happens? After usage, these appliances, their life in other places, exhausted this lifespan, are found into other markets, basically as a source of importation. And so all of these things are what we include in the dumping menace that we talk about. Illegal appliances and e-waste basically goes to confirm what this dumping menace is all about. Next slide, please. Now, why are we focusing on cooling appliances? I mentioned cooling appliances because they contain refrigerants. And these refrigerants, specifically hydrofluorocarbons, and I know this is a jaw-breaking word, but very common, is what we look at in R134A as a source of refrigerant for refrigerators, and R410 in the force of air conditioning. Now, these refrigerants are also known as short-lived climate pollutants. And short-lived climate pollutants are seen to be very, very harmful to the environment. In all of this, we are saying that in developing countries, the HFC emissions are projected to as much as 800% greater than in developed countries by the year 2050. Now, we don't even manufacture these products, yet if you look at the consumption of our HFC-based appliances, that is cooling appliances, then we realize that we are exceeding the target, which also means that we will be going contrary to our commitments to the Montreal Protocol and Kigali Amendment. In terms of demand, what is the causes of all of this? We are saying that increasing air conditioners is a clear demand. And I'm sure we'll all agree that in some few years ago, when we saw air conditioning being installed in somebody's house, or you are moving around and you see an air conditioner, the impression that comes is that this house must belong to a rich person. Now the narrative has changed. Cooling is no more a luxury. And if you see what is happening now, almost everybody is trying to do what we call susu, to be able to get a cooling appliance, because it is now a necessity. The sun is scorching so much that cooling is needed in our homes. In the case of refrigerators, we need cooling to be able to store our foodstuffs. And it goes beyond just that to include even food chain. How do we store our products, our perishable goods? It's all cooling appliances that have to be looked at. Now, exporting countries or developed countries are regulating products more stringent now. Every country is trying to be stringent in terms of its regulation. And what basically is happening is that when they pass new standards or new regulations, the question is what happens to the old regulations? These old products end up finding themselves in another market. And this is what we are all describing as a dumping. In addition to this, there are lack of sufficient laws, especially in Africa. But in the case of Ghana, we seem to have beautiful laws and not just insufficient laws, but we have the laws, beautiful ones, but a major problem is enforcement. It is one thing to come up with standards, one thing to come up with a regulation, but if you don't involve the consuming public, the importers, and those who are chained, it is going to be very difficult to enforce this law. And these are some of the things that we look at in terms of government agencies. That political will is not available, and we find it very difficult for stakeholder engagement and collaboration. Next slide, please. Now, as I mentioned, Ghana is one of the few countries that has a lot of laws in place, beautiful laws. Question is, how are we going about enforcement? And just for the purpose of the audience, it's important to know what are some of the laws that exist. So in 2005, the first standards and labeling regulation was passed for air conditioners and self-ballasted fluorescent lamps. I'm sure a lot of us have seen these yellow labels on air conditioners. This was the law that allowed for such products to be labeled. On the other hand, in 2008, we came up with a prohibition law to say that used cooling appliances such as refrigerators, air conditioners, and incandescent was going to be banned. We also followed that up in 2009 with a regulation for refrigerators. So whilst we were banning the use of solid products, we're also setting minimum standards for the new ones that were supposed to come into the country. And we added a regulation for LED, which is light emitting diodes, in 2017, because there was a changing trend in the lighting space. So you realize that these are the regulations that were in place since 2005 up to 2017, as far as energy efficiency is concerned. But there's a main question. 2008, a law was passed to ban cooling appliances, but we are still seeing these cooling appliances in the market. We are still seeing used fridges. We are still seeing used air conditioners. I don't think it's the same narrative when it comes to incandescent bulbs, because everybody has moved to CFL, and in most cases, people have moved to LEDs now. So we need to find out what has been the problem. What has the enforcement been? Next slide, please. So in able to curb all of this, the LI, which is the legislative instrument that we decided to pass, was basically to enhance consumer benefits. And when we talk about consumers, every Ghanaian is a consumer. Today, I might be speaking as a rep from Energy Commission, but when it comes to purchasing of appliances, if I go to town right now, I become a consumer. And so the regulation is seeking to protect everyone, is seeking to put some monies in people's pockets. And how will that be possible? To make sure that people are paying less for their bills and consuming less by getting energy efficient appliances. We also believe that by benefiting from stimulating technologies, these things will improve manufacturers to also supply new efficient products into the market. The regulation is going to make sure that inefficient air conditioners, refrigerators, CFLs, and appliances in general are phased out of the market if they do not meet the requirements. And all of this will basically stimulate the market. And by stimulation, it means that opportunities will be created in terms of manufacturing, in terms of assembly, in terms of options for consumers to get the right product. Next slide, please. Now, minimum energy performance standard is what the new regulation seeks to talk about, because we had a very, once a while, when you enforce regulations, you learn from the challenges and you try to improve it. One of the biggest challenges has been the definition of use. And so the 2008 regulation, which banned the importation of used refrigerators and air conditioners, became slightly difficult because the Ghanaian importer has interesting ways of describing his product. Some say it's store reject, some say it's stock lots, some say it's factory defects, all kinds of names. But the main issue is that if I stayed in the UK and I bought an appliance, used it for even 1 month, and I'm importing them into the country, does this appliance fall under use category? Obviously, the answer is yes. But the bigger question is, does the efficiency of the product reduce within that 3 weeks or 1 month in which I used it? And that might be a big doubt. What we have decided to do going forward is to be very technical, also in discussion with Buta, about talking about standards, minimum energy performance standards. And so the new regulations is very clear on appliances meeting minimum energy performance standards, because we believe that it is not all new products that also will meet the minimum energy performance. The fact that an appliance is new does not mean it's durable. It does not mean it's efficient. So this law is in place to make sure that products falling under the regulations that are coming into the country meet the minimum energy performance standards, which is what we call the MEPS. And so if you think an obsolete product being imported will meet the minimum performance standards, the ball is in your court to provide the necessary technical documentation to be able to establish that. And I think this regulation is now very clear and enforceable. Now, when it comes to MEPS, these minimum standards are usually voluntary if there are no regulations. And that is why regulations have been kept in place. But enforcement is a major challenge. So what is enforcement? According to CLAS, they define enforcement as the action taken by an authority in response to incidents of non-compliance with rules of a program. But I, on the other hand, believe that regulations are just documents to be kept on shelves without a clear strategy to enforce them. And so basically what it means is that when you pass regulations and you do not have a clear strategy to enforce them, are just going to be documents that will be kept on the shelves to pile up and gather dust. Next slide, please. Now we have a beautiful picture here. And since this is a webinar, we might not be getting the feedback from audience, but I'm sure we can all relate. Indeed, this is not a Photoshop. This is how the appliance market in Ghana looks like. And we are saying that to be able to halt dumping, the Ghanaian consumer also deserves better. Now, when you look at the first picture, we are talking about how these cooling appliances are arriving in the country. And most of them come through the major ports, which is Tema and Takoradi Port. Now, look at these freezers that are in there. The majority of them are coming from the European regions, UK, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany. And it's quite interesting that in UK or in Europe, most of them do not have space as we have here in Ghana, where we have self-contained buildings. Most of them stay in apartments. And so over there, these freezers that you see are usually not used in households. Majority of them are used in industries, or in a worst case scenario, if this was to be in the hospital, obviously your gas cylinders would have been kept. And in some cases, you would have found them in the mortuary, used to store mutilated bodies when there are accidents and these things cannot be found. Now, what happens? When our kingsmen travel abroad, they see this as business opportunity. And these items are usually meant for recycling. They take advantage and they find another market. Now, look down there and you see the CRT television. This is an old technology that has been banned years ago. And we have had several technologies of televisions coming in: LCD, plasma, LCD, LED, OLED, various technologies. And we mentioned dumping to be technological change where products are finding themselves into another market because they have changed their technology. And this is a clear example of the dumping issues we are talking about. Now, when these fridges come into the market, because they are meant for recycling in Europe, there is actually an issue with them. So our kingsmen come here, they wash them, respray them, and probably offer them for sale. You and I will walk to La Paz, Kaneshi, and they say, oh, I think these are quite cheap, and so I can afford to purchase them. Purchase cost will be initially cheap, but when we take them home, we start struggling with them because either we have to change the compressor, or we have to change the condenser, or we have to change the gasket. A lot of things go into that. And so we go to the workshop, mechanic refrigeration workshop. Once a bill is given to us, the next thing we tell the workshop owner is that we are going to work, get some savings, and come back to fix it. And at the end of the day, this is how it looks like. So you realize that the Ghanaian workshop is depicted by this picture. Anytime you see these kind of items in a particular area, it only tells you that there's a workshop there, which is quite interesting. And that is not the same scenario we have in Europe. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. All of this, you realize that in Ghana, people bring goods and they tell the consumer that the goods bought are not returnable. And even telling you this, they tell you that these goods are tested, these ones are untested. And we think that is not fair enough. We should be able to bring products which warranty will hold for them so that the Ghanaian consumer can also get value for money. So the question is, how are these things coming into the country? And I want us to take a closer look at these pictures. This is Semaphore, a clear example of how items are coming in. And the story behind this container is that this container was described as British High Commission, meaning that it was a diplomatic container. Now, this diplomatic container was also described as personal effects and household goods, which is usually the description used by these importers. Little did we know that this household goods we had intercepted was actually going to be something beyond our control. So we requested for examination with customs that we had suspected that these containers were laden with used cooling appliances, which were prohibited. Customs explained to us that per the rules, it is going to be very difficult to devan a diplomatic container because of, international treaties and all of that. So we decided to invite the agency, requested that examination should be done at the premises where the container will be escorted by the National Security, the Custom Preventive, and officers of Energy Commission to the destination. This agent started going back and forth because he knew that it was going to be a big problem. Thank God, Customs being diligent enough, the sector commander then took the decision upon himself and requested that since the agent was not forthcoming, let's devan the container to establish what was in it. And when we did, lo and behold, your guess is as good as mine. We saw items being described as personal effects with the boxes with people's names written on it. But as we went into the container and tried to bring the items out, we saw a vehicle in there, meaning that these people were actually smuggling vehicles without describing them. And worst of all, still had the used fridges also being kept. And you can see the fridges at the bottom with the condenser showing. So these are how these people are being ingenious to bring these products into the country. Next slide, please. Now, when you look at the next slide, you can realize that these items, eventually, this is what we pulled out. And it's so disheartening if we call ourselves importers or business people, and yet we try to smuggle items into the country at the expense of the state. What it means is that this item that was described as personal effects, none of these fridges were described. And once you do not describe these items, it means the ICOM system will not pick it because the HS code has not been described, which also means that duties are not paid on these items. And they are so ingenious that they wrap them with black polythene, they load them at the back of the container, and they load other things. The challenge here is that customs, one officer is assigned about 5 containers a day. And so imagine devaning all containers. What it means is that the idea of trade facilitation will be defeated. But we are also being taken advantage of because people are betraying the system, smuggling these items, and these are large items. So to be able to smuggle this, then it's an intentional effort to do this. And you say these items are personal effects. The question we keep on asking is that, how big is your home? This is another case in Takoradi Port, where air conditioners. And the story behind this was that it belonged to one woman. She swore heaven and earth that she was clearing used car tires. and wasn't dealing in contraband goods. Unfortunately, customs came to her aid and insisted that this was a client that they had worked on her goods previously, and she was clearing car ties. But we insisted that this time around, let's sample her container and examine it. As we were about to do that, this woman came wailing, making all kinds of noise, causing a scene, and even threatening that I will go naked if you keep on doing what you are doing. And if you open this container and there's nothing in it, Energy Commission, you are going to pay for the bills. These were threats, but we were not perturbed about it. We insisted we wanted to examine it. And when we opened the container, lo and behold, this is what we found. These are window air conditioners, very obsolete technology. And you can see that these items that you saw actually belong to a hospital in Italy. And during the COVID period, the hospital was trying to refurbish the air conditioners. And when they did that, this person brought them into the country. And we know the function of the air conditioner. Air conditioners contained in a hospital, which was meant for refurbishment, being taken for recycling, people brought it into the country. And you see, this is clearly Thermoport. This is no Photoshop. Unfortunately, Ghanaians do not see how these products come into the market. All you see is when they have washed them, when they have resprayed them, and when they have fixed compressors into it. And we think this is becoming an eyesore. Next slide, please. Now, we are able to do all of this because technology is also in place. And so a scan has been introduced at the Thermoport, specifically MPS terminal, for which we have requested that all personal effects, containers described as personal effects, should go through the scan. And once they do that, we are able to see the images of the containers and take an informed decision before examination is done. So where an officer is assigned 10 containers, he can take advantage by looking at examination, checking the scan images to take an informed decision. Next slide, please. Yes, so the graph here shows it all. And Isaac, you can click on the next slide so that we can get the full graph showing. So you keep on pressing next slide till we get the full graph showing. Now, this is how the import of used appliances used to be in Ghana. Predominantly, used cooling appliances were imported into the country. And from 2005 up to 2008, this is how it looked like. Ghana was predominantly importing used fridges and used appliances. But when we passed the law in 2008, I mentioned political will as one of the challenges that we have faced. But as part of the political will, we have to also be human in how we go about regulation. So once the law was passed in 2008, a moratorium was given to the importers to run up their business. And 2 years was given to them to be able to prepare for the new regulations. Unfortunately for us, 2 years from 2008 became 2010. And in 2010, there was a change of government. These importers went up in arms, went into a demonstration and insisted that the previous government gave them 2 years. And so they expect the same to be done by the new government. The late President Mills indicated that then we needed to look at trying to let these importers, since it was a source of livelihood, to be able to plan towards their business. So another 2 years was given going into 2012. 2012, we realized that a trend was coming in. These importers came up in arms again because 2012 was an election year, and they insisted that something should be done for them. But we realized that we could not keep on doing this because we're also signatories to the Montreal Protocol and we had timelines to meet. So we asked them to sign an affidavit and requested that after the affidavit, we're not going to come back for extension. So we gave them, they requested for 3 months actually to be able to clear the containers that arrived in the country. But we gave them 6 months. And if you look at the trend, each year or extension we gave them, the numbers kept on increasing. Meanwhile, the extension was to wrap up your business, not to import more numbers. And the data is very clear that the more we gave the extension, the more they imported the items. But when we started full enforcement in 2012, you can see a drastic reduction in the numbers of used products. And as the full enforcement went on, The figures you are seeing here is actually seizures. So from the year 2014 to 2022, these are seizures, items that we have seized at the port, because these items were not described. So when you go into the ICOMS or the custom database, you will be misled to say that we have fully enforced the law. But we see these items in La Paz and Carnation, which only says that some items are still coming in. Now, in doing this, in able to enforce this, a total savings of 7,955 gigawatt hours was saved. And this is about 54% of the total thermal generation in 2022, just by enforcing this law. And basically what we did was to take the consumption of inefficient cooling appliances, look at the volumes of these items that were coming in, and we're able to establish this. Next slide, please. Now, because we have been able to do this with this enforcement, we realized that there was also a growing trend in the new products that were coming in. As we have fully enforced the law in 2012, you realize that the numbers for the new ones started increasing, which also meant that when you go into town, you will see refrigerators having these new labels, these yellow labels being put on it. And so clearly we have been able to transform the refrigerator market. And we believe that if we're able to make these savings from just refrigerators, then we should be able to make significant savings when we look at other high consuming appliances that are into the company. Next slide, please. So we discussed the strategies that we've been able to use. And basically, next slide, please. Basically, some of the strategies include developing regulations, set the minimum performance standards, because you need a legal basis to be able to do enforcement. We have also used what we call leadership approach. It is one thing to have these regulations, but if you are not clear on the strategy, as I mentioned, then enforcement will be a big challenge. We have also used risk profiling importers who are recalcitrant and bringing these goods in to make the selfish interest at the expense of the states and the consuming public, and profile them as high risk importers. And so when such products come, we're able to scrutinize them, and we review the images of such containers. We tag them in collaboration with customs to be able to examine these containers. Next slide, please. We've also adapted naming and shaming as one of the means that we have done that. And when you look at naming and shaming, I will cite an example of how that has been done. We have identified champions, and by champions, we mean we need people to champion the national buy-in, meaning that every Ghanaian should believe in the ideas of having efficient products and also believing that we deserve better in our market. We need to also motivate staff who are involved in all of this enforcement activities. And these are the strategies that we have used. Next slide, please. I mentioned the system leadership. The system leadership takes into consideration our culture, and the Ghanaian culture is so unique that it's not like Europe, where when you are in the process of enforcing a regulation, a chief in your village, a pastor, or even a political leader is calling to intervene in the seizures that you have made. And it's quite interesting. For the Energy Commission, these things that come are usually to be expected. And so sometimes you're on the field working on the container, a call comes in and says they are calling from, the big house, or I am the MP for this constituency. All kinds of calls come in. However, when these calls come in, all we just tell the big wigs who call in is that the request you are making is verbal and we are willing to assist you. But we will require that you put that in writing. So if you can put this, if, for example, you are calling from the Flagstaff House or Office of the President or wherever you call it, we request that you put that request in writing so that the Energy Commission will be glad to release this container because an instruction has come in writing. And I tell you, none of these calls follow up again after this request has been made. It clearly tells us that people abuse their political powers, they abuse their positions, well.
We can't hear him again.
I mentioned
no?
identifying champions.
Okay, okay.
And we believe. Sorry, can I go ahead?
The line is breaking.
But it's better now. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. I mentioned identifying champions, and we believe that today everybody listening to this presentation is being identified as a champion, because we have to all go out and spread the good words, spread the opportunities involved in energy efficiency, and also believe that something can be done and the Ghanaian consumer deserves better. Next slide, please. I mentioned motivating the staff and also leadership. And in the case of Energy Commission, you can see that our able executive secretary actually even comes to the ground just to understand the nature of the work that is happening, what strategies are being kept in place, and what can be things that we have kept in place to be able to do this. So Energy Commission, system leadership, institutional leadership is helpful in enforcing these regulations. Next slide, please. This is an example of the naming and shaming I mentioned. And naming and shaming basically means that there is a tax for these companies to do the right thing. Now, this is public notice because this was in the newspapers. And what actually happened in this case was that the product was approved, energy ratings were given as 1 star, but the products around the country as 4 stars. And we felt that this was misleading the consumer to be able to buy the products. And so a verification test was run on the products. We established the fact that they were mislabeled, and we asked the importer to recall the items to do a public notice. Interestingly, the importer got a small space in the graphic and put in the notice, which meant he had met our requirements. But it looks like Ghanaians are always interested in reading bad news. So the person thought by putting a small notice there, it will not be identified. A lot of people read this notice and eventually started returning all branded items. An example is NASCO and Legacy. We had a problem with just one model of the product, not the brand. But the public notice became an issue for the importer to deal with, because consumers who had bought rice cooker, blenders, all kinds of things started returning it because they said Energy Commission indicated that this brand is not good. But that was not the case. The case was that a particular model had a problem and we asked them to recall the model. So public notice is very important, and you realize that it has a lot of damage that can be caused to importers. And so it is one of the strategies that we use when we find recalcitrant importers. Next slide, please. I mentioned identifying champions. And what we have done is that Energy Commission, on behalf of Ghana, became a champion by writing to the Montreal Protocol and submitting a conference room paper to indicate that we are all signatories to this protocol. Now, for us to be able to meet the requirements of the protocol, we need to be able to protect each other's market and share the responsibility. So dumping new and efficient appliances on Africa, we said, has to be stopped, and efforts has to be put in place to make sure that Africa is also deserved of efficient products in the market. So a decision was made, and that decision is to share responsibility and make sure that importing countries put in place regulations, whilst exporting countries also enforce their regulations by making sure that obsolete appliances do not leave their territories into new territories that do not have regulations. Next slide, please. We have also engaged manufacturers, because over 90% of the imports coming into Ghana are from China. And so we have engaged manufacturers to be able to inform them about the requirements of the regulations. And we believe that this will go a long way to help us become compliant and importers also meeting the requirements. Next slide, please. We also have verification means, and one of the means is the investment that we have put in place at the Ghana Standards Authority. This is the testing facility for refrigerators and air conditioners. And so the products that arrive in the country, we are also able to verify the efficiency ratings to confirm if that is actually the case. And this is how we're able to get the cases of non-compliance. We have also introduced labels and then also introduced what we call verification tools. So I will urge all those listening today to download what we call the GH Certified Appliance app. GH Certified Appliance app on Google Play Store and iOS. We want to empower the Ghanaian consumer to be able to make an informed decision. So you have the app, you are able to confirm whether the product you are seeing in the market has been approved by the Energy Commission by entering the model number, or in the recent case, you scan the QR code on the label to confirm if this label has been approved by Energy Commission. The app also tells you how much you pay for your bills if you buy a particular appliance. And so that calculation is done. And as I said, I urge everyone to download this app because it will come in handy to be able to serve a purpose. Next slide, please. This is how we expect the appliance market to look, and not to promote any brand in particular, but we believe that the picture we showed earlier on the appliance market should be transformed to this, so that when the Ghanaian consumer enters a shop, he's also able to make an informed decision on the products. Next slide, please. So we look at the impact of the savings and then what we have been able to do so far. And as I mentioned, this is how the market has transformed. Next slide, please. The regulation has been able to make sure that the cooling appliances that are coming into the country, the consumption has also reduced, because the more you set high standards, the more these appliances have to have a lower consumption rate. And look at how the trend has been for appliances in Ghana, specifically refrigerators. We have been able to drastically reduce the cooling appliances and the consumption of these appliances. Next slide, please. In all of this that we have done from 2005, when we introduced standards and labeling, the CFL project that we did was to replace incandescent with CFL, and over 6 million CFLs were distributed and replaced. And at the end, we're able to make a savings of 124 megawatts peak savings. This was very significant and clearly shows that energy efficiency demand side management is the way to go, and to be able to get some savings on what we. In addition to that, the refrigerator project that we introduced in 2012 was to return used obsolete products, turn in your old fridge, get a discount to be able to buy a new one, and over 400 gigawatt hour savings was made, looking at about 1.1 million tons of CO2 savings also achieved. And this clearly set the pace that if we are able to do this for lighting devices and refrigerators, then a lot can be done with other appliances. Next slide, please. This has also increased the importation, moving away from used products to the new ones, and over 4 million new fridges and 1.3 million new air conditioners have been imported into the country. And that tells you that the demand is actually there. As regulators, we need to make sure that the market is opened, it is transformed, it is regulated, and everybody has an equal playing ground. Next slide, please. The Commission conducted a survey and we did an impact analysis looking at the effect of these regulations. And we can clearly say that about 10,159 gigawatt hours of electricity savings was achieved cumulatively, looking at the enforcement of these regulations. About 6.32 million tons of CO2 emissions avoided, over $1 billion in savings of electricity has been realized. And we are looking at, if inefficient cooling appliances were being imported in the country, looking at their consumption and the bills that were going to be paid, this is the savings that we have been able to make. This intervention delayed additional capacity expansion of about 1,160 megawatts. And this is very clear. And as you can see, the peak savings, the consumption of cooling appliances all reduced, and now consumers have access to efficient appliances. So when you walk into the showroom now, you will see fridges with yellow labels, air conditioners with yellow labels. And we believe that this can be done for more appliances. Next slide, please. We also introduce innovative incentives, because what is really the problem? The problem is initial cost of buying these products. And so if initial cost is the problem, why don't we find incentives to be able to solve this by supporting the Ghanaian consumer, be it salaried workers, to be able to buy these products and have flexibility with payment plans to be able to do that. So we know that there's high purchase. Some of these importers are being innovative, retailers innovative, but there's an interest rate. So the commission came up with a project called the Eco Fridges, where we partnered with some banks and vendors who met the minimum eligibility requirements to say that salaried workers can get these products, which is the Eco Fridges products. The bank will pay for the upfront cost of the products, and then the bank will deduct the cost of the product as it is in the showroom at 0% interest for the consumer. And the question is, which bank will give you 0% interest? The strategy was that these importers were making profits, and so that profit margin was shared between the banks and then the vendors as a business strategy, so that these high efficient products that were coming in, the guarantee was that the bank was going to pay for it. Then they have their deduction over time, 12 months at 0% interest. And after 12 months, interest will now be applicable. And we believe the more we do such incentives, we'll be able to support the Ghanaian to move away from always complaining that the used obsolete appliances are cheap, and so the new ones are expensive, and so they cannot purchase it. To look at also the running costs, operational costs, and then cost of maintaining these appliances, which I call the total cost of ownership. Next slide, please. And so fast forward, in 2022, the Energy Commission went to Parliament to request that regulations should be passed based on these achievements on just cooling appliances, to include other high consuming appliances and appliances that also have volumes in the market, to make sure that these products are regulated. And to mention is, we are looking at microwave ovens. So the yellow labels you see on fridges and air conditioners will now be on microwave ovens, water heaters, clothes washing machines, televisions, computers, rice cookers, ventilating fans, industrial fans, comfort fans. The refrigerator and air conditioning regulation has been revised because these laws were passed in 2009 and 2005 respectively. And we agree that technology has changed. Now there are inverter air conditioners, there are inverter refrigerators. So as a regulator, you need to be in the same pace as technology. So we have revised these regulations. We have also added distribution transformers. We have added electric motors. We have added electric kettles, public lighting, set-top boxes or decoders. And then we have also looked at the renewable space to make sure that renewable energy is also included. Solar panels, inverters, renewable energy batteries are required to meet the minimum energy performance as the law requires. And all importers who deal in these products must make sure that they register the products with the Energy Commission, the products are certified, and the products are labeled before they arrive into the country. Next slide, please. With all of this, what it means is that once we have set the regulations, we have also said that in Regulation 4, that the law prohibits not used appliances, not new appliances, but appliances that do not meet the minimum energy performance standards. So as I initially said in my submission, that for import of these products in the list to arrive into the country, they must meet the minimum performance standards. The Energy Commission is not so concerned about how you choose to describe it, whether stock lots, whether store rejects, whether factory defects, whatever name you describe to use it, as they were using to beat the system, the law is saying that you need to register the product, you need to first get the performance test report to establish that these products meet the standards. And that is what the regulation is all about. But enforcement, as can I mention that some of them include political interference, inadequate testing facilities, lack of cooperation from stakeholders, and the cultural interference. Next slide, please. So the way forward is that the Energy Commission does not just believe in trying to spilt milk and saying there are challenges, but we need to also encourage that now that the scope has increased, we need to have more testing facilities in place. We need to strengthen institutional collaboration, and that's why I'm very glad and took advantage of this opportunity when AGI reached out to say that we have a platform where we want you to educate our members as well as the Ghanaian public on these regulations. And such opportunities are very timely and also help us to be able to achieve this national goal. And that national buy-in is actually there. We believe that energy efficiency is something that must be with us. Energy conservation actually is behavioral and must be part of us. And so introducing energy efficiency in the basic curriculum is the way to go. And we believe that when we have energy efficiency as part of all of this, the next generation that will be coming up will be interested in having this knowledge on energy efficiency, and they will be able to make sure that they also comply with the province of energy efficiency. End of life is a big problem, and the big problem is that we are not able to cater for the end of life of these products. So a lot of electronic waste are coming into the country. We do not know how to destroy them, and we have a big problem. So there must be an effort in place, and as we keep on saying, these used obsolete appliances that are meant for recycling in Europe are brought here, components are taken out of it, and what happens to the debris? The debris end up at the dump sites, in most cases at Bugloshi, in most cases at the repairer's shop, and they are abandoned there. And there's a burden on the country as Ghana to destroy these items. We need to intensify energy efficiency awareness because that is the key. And we believe that once we do that, it will go a long way to help us. Now, energy efficiency is very important, and we believe that once we do this, the future of the Ghanaian public, the future of the consuming public, the next generation is relying on us. Here we have the opportunity as regulators. We have the opportunity as industry players. We have the opportunity as importers to bring items into the country. Less that posterity will be judging us on how we do things in the country and the future we are leaving behind for the next generation. And so I would end here by saying that together we should have that national buy-in. Let's look at the positives of energy efficiency. Let's look at the positives of enforcing these new regulations. And the Ghanaian consumer deserves more efficient, more durable, and also deserves to store and save some money in his pockets in saving his bills. Thank you very much for the audience, and I end here. And thank you very much, AGI, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Hubert. That was a very insightful presentation. Seeing those pictures from the port, very revealing. So, ladies and gentlemen, because of our small glitch, we are sort of overrun our allocated time. So I'll just crave your indulgence to extend the time beyond the advertised 12:30 time, so that we take some questions. I believe you all have some questions, clarifications, and issues you wanted addressed by the experts from the Energy Commission. So I'll just open the floor. Bebel, I see your hand, so if you can just briefly give your ask your question or remark here.
Yes, just briefly. Thank you very much, Hubert. I was very impressed by your presentation, and I'm always impressed by the ways of how people try to get around regulations and laws, and how creative they are in avoiding following regulations. I'm always saying, if the people would use the energy they have for their criminal activities for positive activities, I think this country could also be a better place, or let's say the sector could be a better place. Thank you very much for the good presentation. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Bible. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, just raise your hand. I will unmute you, and then you can ask, or you can also post the question in the comment section, and I'll read it. Moving from that, so Herbert is asking what happened to the incandescent lamps that were replaced by 6 million CFLs in 2007, and what influence did they have on local manufacturing opportunities for such energy-saving lighting? Hubert, you want to address that?
Right. So obviously, technological change. These incandescent bulbs were destroyed in an environmentally friendly manner under the supervision of Ministry of Environment and the EPA. And so that is how they were destroyed. And I mentioned the savings opportunities that we got by introducing CFL. Now, in terms of the business opportunity, this is the opportunities that we are looking at, because as regulations, they are termed as technical barriers to trade. Regulations come in to be able to streamline the market, but they also create the opportunity for people to be able to set up assembling and manufacturing companies or plants to be able to produce these items. Ghana predominantly is an important country, but we need to set the environment in place to gradually move from just importation to assembly and probably manufacturing these products here in Ghana. And before all of this can be done, the regulatory environment has to be in place. Most of the importers, most of these opportunities and investments did not happen because predominantly our market was importing used products. And so any manufacturer who dares to establish in Ghana will not be able to compete, because here is a market where people are able to import obsolete appliances, virtually getting them free or cheaper in Europe, and coming to sell and compete in the same market as those who are manufacturing here. So for us as regulators, we want to make sure that the regulations are in place, the market is transformed, the system is open and competitive enough so that people who are assembly or manufacture here in Ghana will have the opportunity to compete with people who also import, but not inefficient or substandard goods, but efficient goods. Thank you.
Thank you, Hubert. Hubert, I believe your question has been addressed. So I see Mr. Ben Nyaje, I think you can ask your question now.
Thank you very much, the moderator and the presenter. I am very, very, very happy with this presentation, quality, and the information that is churned out for our benefit. Thank you very much, Mr. Presenter and the organizers. I just want to find out from Energy Commission how they are collaborating with EPA to achieve their 2030 agenda for banning refrigerant 12 and 22 from the system.
Right, so thank you very much, Engineer. I mentioned institutional collaboration as one of the key things that needs to be done. And the Energy Commission believes in that so much that we are working very closely with the EPA, because the EPA are the national focal organization when it comes to the Montreal Protocol. So we are working closely with the ozone units. And then the CRP, the conference room paper that was submitted, was actually in collaboration with EPA, because they are the focal people that we needed to do that with. So there is what we call the HPMP, the hydrofluorocarbon phase out management plan, that gives each country timelines to be able to phase out these refrigerants. You mentioned R12. R12 was banned long ago, which is the CFC 12. And so we do not expect any appliance to come with R12 in terms of refrigerators. Of course, none of the new fridges being manufactured has R12, but the used ones being imported have R12 because they were meant for recycling. And that is the more reason why these prohibitions are in place, so that we do not bring them into our country to increase our banks, that is the quantity of these refrigerants, at the expense
of the cost that will go into destroying them. Very soon, HFCs, as I mentioned, which are short-lived climate pollutants, will also be phased out. So they are currently being phased down. So the Energy Commission and EPA came up with a public notice, a joint public notice for the important community, that is of cooling appliances, to say that Energy Commission has stopped issuing approval for R22 air conditioners, which is what we call Freon, because R22 has been banned long ago in Europe. But we have timelines to meet as far as the Kigali Amendment and Montreal Protocol is concerned. And so we are in that phase to do that. And I'm glad you also mentioned the timelines that are in place. So basically to say that there is collaboration between Energy Commission and EPA. EPA has the timelines. Energy Commission is regulating the equipment which contains these products. And so we are also bearing in mind of this in issuing approvals for the importers and establishing a quota system which EPA is monitoring and then coordinating. I hope this addresses the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hubert. So I'll just give you indulgence to take 3 questions and then you can address them at a go. I will ask the first one and then I see 2 hands up. If I 3, then I'll give opportunity 2 of them to ask. So you mentioned that apart from the ACs and the refrigerators, you have the regulations on the other appliances in our homes. But when we walk into the showrooms, we don't really see the label on these appliances, the microwaves and all of that. Or is it that you've not started implementing those ones yet? Please hold on. Let me take the other 2 questions and then you can address. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yes. Ms. Trewa, please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, the host and the presenter. Thank you for a very insightful presentation. I work with a financial institution, and as we all know, we've been providing capital for the SMEs and to grow their business and all that. And a number of these enterprises, the Abosokai guys and all that, bring in some of these used products. An example is the refrigerators, the ACs that you've talked about. So at the minimum, from Energy Commission, since used products are not necessarily banned, but they are supposed to meet some performance standards by Energy Commission, can you advise or give 2 things that if a bank wants to finance an SME, they should check and look out for? And where do we get these documents? Because some of the SMEs will tell you they don't know that these documents exist, and they keep getting their products, to the port and getting them out of the ports. And they can tell you they don't have any documents like that, as you have indicated. So can you please assist us with knowledge in this area? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very good question. Kelvin, please go ahead. Mr. Kelvin Fiati.
Yes. So the first one has to do with the booming markets for these imported or secondhand goods at La Paz. Looking at the nice presentation and the interventions that has been put forward, it looks like then where are we going? Since the market is growing day by day, when you go to La Paz, you see truckloads of these EEs coming in daily. And so I want to know how these interventions are really working when you see some of these things happening and the market growing. And the second actually has to do with the goods sold are not returnable. And in fact, these are big stores, well known. I mean nationwide known companies or groups. Because then my boss has also bought an equipment from a very nice from a nationwide known company, but they also wouldn't take the good because then goods sold from them are not returnable. But on the other hand, these companies or those who bring these secondhand goods actually even help you work things that you buy from them. So I want to know how you are working out these things to help some of us. So thank you, if you understand the question.
Thank you very much. So 2 questions. The market for the secondhand goods at La Paz and other secondhand markets. What is the way forward? Hubert, how are you addressing that? Because if you pass there, we still see them. And secondly, the goods sold are not returnable. How are you addressing that through regulation?
Okay. So we are addressing these items by introducing the regulation. And so if you look at the presentation, as I mentioned, we only had regulation for 3 appliances: the refrigerator, air conditioning, and lighting devices. So there was no regulation for washing machine, microwave, all other appliances. There was no regulation. And I mentioned that standards are usually voluntary if there are no regulation in place. So immediately, to curb this, that is why we have introduced the regulation. Now, once you introduce a regulation, it means that you need to give some timelines to be able to establish the regulation. So I'm boxing the two in terms of the demand, as he mentioned. So if you look at the case of refrigerators, the numbers and the graph clearly have reduced. What we used to see in La Paz in 2008, 2009 is not more the same. And if you paid attention, most of the people in La Paz are gradually transitioning. So you realize that some of them have now started becoming retailers of new products, because it does not make sense to take your capital, go and buy used second-hand products, come to the port of Ghana, and because these items have been banned, your container will be detained or your container will be seized. You can use that same capital and become a retailer here in Ghana of an appliance that is meeting the requirement. So if you pay attention, look at some of these shops, you realize that they are selling both new and still having their used products. Now, why are the used products in there if the enforcement started in 2012? The Ghanaian is always disingenuous. These people that we went to do market surveillance and requested indicated that the fridges we are seeing is actually old stock. So the question is, old stock from 2012 or old stock from when? Because they cannot establish, they cannot show you custom documentation of how these things arrived in the country, which meant that they are smuggled items. And I'm glad one of the questionnaires mentioned that they need to understand the process, how to support some of these SMEs. So basically, these things are in place, and the regulation is saying that if you are selling these products, you need to provide the approval from Energy Commission that allows you to sell the product. Hitherto, we didn't have that. Now, this is what the regulation is saying. So if you are selling microwave ovens, refrigerators, air conditioners, perhaps you imported them into the country. You should have data, you should have records of your import documentation. And so that will establish whether they are old stock or new stock. But if you cannot find the data, then probably these items found a strange way to enter into the market, which we can only clear them and determine them as smuggled items. In terms of these items being in the market on this label, I mentioned that the law just came into force in 2022 with a 1-year moratorium that was given. So what it means is that a lot of the products that are currently in the showroom are items that were ordered earlier in the year or in the previous years and are being imported into the country now. So you will gradually see a shift. The new consignments that are coming in are gradually having these labels being put in place. So the question is, how does one get the label? How does one know that the product is registered? And I'm trying to answer the first question, person's question. The law is saying that as an importer, before you bring these products into the country, you must get an approval from Energy Commission. What do you need to get the approval? You need to provide a technical documentation, which is a test report. So if you are in Abosiokain or wherever, and you say you are an importer, before you bring the product into the country, you must know that that product is regulated. And the regulation indicates that you must bring the technical documentation. So for you to be able to finance such a company, you need to ask the person, you have the approval of these products you are bringing from the Energy Commission. Show us your approval ratings or your approval indication from the Energy Commission, so that you do not take that risk of financing this person if he does not have the approval. Because the law is very clear and says that this importer must get the technical documentation, which is the test report. Now, the importer must know that the Energy Commission is playing the role of a referee between the importer and the factory that will be supplying this goods. Remember, the importer is just a business person. He might not know these technical details. But the Energy Commission is able to advise the importer that this fridge, this air condition, this microwave, this washing machine you intend to bring into the country does not meet the requirement. Or on the other hand, it meets the requirement. Here is the ratings that we want to give you to be able to import this product into the country. And Ghanaians should take advantage. This is the mandate of the Energy Commission. This is the work we are paid to do. So I don't see why you will take the risk, take a loan from the bank, not get the necessary recommendations and approvals, and bring in products which are substandard or which do not meet the requirement, and now your goods, for there's a law that is doing this. And that is the burden that we have. So we can only increase our awareness, try to meet more consumer groups, try to meet more association groups, more important groups to understand the minimum requirement for importation so that they are able to comply with the regulations. So the goods on, I think you mentioned one about goods but are not returnable.
Yes.
It's why it's good. It's why we introduced this regulation. Because as a regulator, because there was no regulation, we cannot guarantee the efficiency or the durability of a product. But with this new regulation, any importer who gets the yellow label or the approval to print the yellow label from Energy Commission would have submitted a report, would have given us a warranty of his report. And so we hold these importers liable for the warranty. So if you buy a product that is bearing the label and it does not serve your purpose, then you have the right to take it to the showroom or the company and request that the warranty should be applicable. In the case where this is not done, the issue can be reported to the Energy Commission. The Energy Commission will investigate the issue. As I mentioned, we did not have this in place, and that is why the regulation is now in place. With this new regulation, this issue can be reported to the Commission. The Commission will check whether the issue at stake is a factory defect from the model that you bought, or it was a genuine case of inefficient product. And the Commission can request that the importer of the product does the needful by working with its warranty as it is. So clearly, this regulation is coming in to help. It's coming to streamline the market. It's coming in to make sure that the importer is protected from the factory. The importer and the consumer are also protected because some importers will be bringing in substandard goods. The consumer has to be protected from such importers. And then the Ghanaian populace has to be protected. So second-hand goods are goods that probably have used and exhausted their lifespan. Now, if you think such a product that has exhausted its lifespan can meet the minimum requirements, provide us with the test report to establish that. And so we are very clear on how we want to enforce the regulation. If the second-hand dealers believe that their second-hand goods are more durable and efficient than the new ones, then they should provide the technical documentation to establish that. It is not a verbal communication to say my second-hand goods are more durable. It is the performance of the product that will establish that. I hope I have been able to address these three questions at a go.
Yes, you have. Thank you very much. So see that we are at 12:43 now. I plan to extend it by 15 minutes. So let me just take the last set of questions. I see 3 hands up. Gidat, Justice, and Ben is back again. Oh, actually 4. Paulina is there. Okay. So Gidat, go quick one, please. Yeah.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Energy Commission and AGI for collaborating this effort. Zan mentioned one critical component as a way forward in escalating this to other sectors. He mentioned that institutional collaboration is very key in extending or disseminating this information or coordinating this effort. I just want to ask, how does the Energy Commission have any plan of extending this core or program to people in other sectors like the building industry, where we have architects, building contractors, and all that. Because we realize that the building materials they use sometimes, even in construction, the building facade, the building envelopes, do not even meet the standard as far as energy efficiency is concerned. And then also some of these newer buildings that are being constructed are not even renewable energy friendly. So.
All right, thank you, Gilbert. I think we got the import of your question.
I just want to understand, and then also, yes, and finally, yes, hello.
Yes, you have another question.
And then finally, some of these people bring in products like 110 up.
Sorry, we are losing you, Gida. So maybe you can we can make do with your first question, and I think Hubert will address that. Hubert, I guess you got the import of that question. Institutional collaboration with.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Okay, Justice, you have the
floor.
So quite
now. Interestingly, also okay. So I should wait for the next question.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Justice, please go ahead.
Please, my question is concerning the political interference when it comes to the creation of the regulation, the electrical appliance. I want to ask, what are some of the measures that Energy Commission is putting in place? Because all this interference mostly hinders them from doing their work appropriately at the first. So what are some of the measures that we are putting in place to make sure that all these hindrances, are being well taken care of? Thank you.
Thank you. So political interference, what are the measures to mitigate that against that? Paulina, let me come to you before I go to bed, since it's coming back. Yeah, Paulina, go ahead.
Thank you. I really want to commend Zan for his efforts over the years. Even as a freight forwarder clearing agent, we've had a lot of clashes and all that, but he's been a good champion. And what I just want to say is that since I have a community of importers or traders here, I would like to urge you, we as clearing agents, we have to suffer a lot at your hands. Sometimes some of these things, like where you misdescribe and misdeclare, if one agent is able to get the goods out for you, the other one is not able to do that, you deem that agent who was not able to help you dupe the state or something as, unprofessional, and for which reason most of the credible ones are really losing a lot of business. So just know that these interventions are for our good. Aside the state, you describing or declaring the right item for the state to get the revenue. Some of these environmental hazards also exist, and for that matter, we all have to put our hands on deck. And so I would just like to urge you, if an agent or a clearing agent tells you to do the right thing, for which reason maybe you are going to pay a little more by doing the right thing, it always saves you. Because at the end of the day, when you even clear, customs has the right within 6 months to still come and collect whatever duty you evaded. So this is by way of caution. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paulina, for that. So Ben, you have the last question, and then we go to Hubert to address that. Yeah.
Thank you. This question of people writing on their invoices that goods bought, purchased are not returned, is the law against it?
Okay.
The law that they have now, the regulation, is it clearly against that? Is it banning it? Because you see, when the people go and buy the goods and they know that the goods are not in good condition, they put this in on their receipt, what do you call it, the invoice they give you, and bind your hands at the back. So if you bring it home and it doesn't work, you can't send it back. So just my question is, does the law take care of that? Can I report anybody to Energy Commission if I go and buy and it gives me a receipt with goods bought and not returnable?
Thank you, Ben. So 3 questions. I don't know, Paulina was not a question, it was an admonition to the importers here that they should do the right thing that Clary just said. So, Hubert, you can address the other 2. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. And regards to my good friend, Engineer Gididat. So clearly he raised an issue about building materials, the building envelopes, not even introducing renewables. And that takes us to another space of energy efficiency. Today's presentation was energy efficiency on appliances, but there's actually energy efficiency in buildings as well. And for a very long time, we have not been able to establish that because regulations have not been in place. As we speak now, we have the building code, which was developed by the Ghana Standards Authority. But again, when you come up with standards, they are voluntary and it's regulations that will enforce them. So I was glad to see that the Ministry of Works and Housing came up with now the building regulation. So there's an LI on building regulation. And the good thing about the LI is that it has identified all stakeholders and given them responsibilities. So in our case as Energy Commission, our will be to identify the energy consumptions of the buildings and then come up with some requirements or minimum requirements. So every institution has been identified in that building regulations with a clear responsibility that they need to play. So Energy Commission is now initiating, and we are currently working with GIZ on an EPC, Energy Performance Certificate for buildings. For now, we are starting with commercial buildings. So just like you have seen ratings for appliances, don't be surprised to see ratings for commercial buildings. So buildings will now be rated based on their performance, based on their consumption per meter square and all of that. So these are things that we are putting in place. And I can say that the revolution is on in terms of energy efficiency, because we believe that demand side management is the way to go. We cannot keep on investing in fossil fuels, polluting and paying more for our bills and also paying more for the cost of fuel when we can reduce the consumption and probably introduce renewable energy, which is the way to go. So, given that, I can say that Energy Commission is playing its role in the new building regulation by coming up with some requirements, and very soon engagements will be held on that. It will always be a pleasure to work with the architects, to work with the industry players, and all those who matter, renewable agency, association groups, because they also have a role to play in the installation of these renewable products. And that is why we have come up with a regulation on the products. Otherwise, people can also bring in inferior solar panels, and it will defeat this purpose, because people will install it and get bad experience for renewables. And we cannot push the agenda of promoting renewables into the country. I must also thank my sister, Paulina. She's always been supportive. As she said, we had our differences. There's always differences when you want to start something like this. But with time, everybody will appreciate that it's for the good of the country. We cannot keep on doing this at the expense of people's selfish interests, finding their ways out and beating the state, when collectively we need to do something. So I appreciate her support. She's always offered to an opportunity to come and engage the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders. I must apologize, we still haven't come. We have engaged in other opportunities, but we'll still take advantage and come and meet your members. And thank you for encouraging them to do the right thing. The right thing is not to make your interest gains, but to have a gain that will go well for the country and importers to meet the requirements. The last one has to do with warranty. Goods bought are not returnable. And I'm tying it to warranty because clearly the regulation cannot prohibit you from saying your goods bought are not returnable. But the regulation holds for the performance of it. And so the performance of a product is tied to a duration, which is the warranty. So you cannot buy a product today and say there is no warranty to it, as far as the new regulation is concerned. So before you meet the new requirements or you get the yellow label, you should have had a warranty schedule for your products. Otherwise, somebody can produce a product which is efficient, but only efficient for 2 months or 3 months. After 3 months, what happens to the product? Does it lose its efficiency? Does it serve the purpose of the consumer? So warranty is very critical as far as the new regulation is concerned, and importers or dealers of these products will be held responsible. That is, dealers who get the yellow label from Energy Commission will be held responsible. What that means is that you, the consumer, now have a choice to buy the product with the yellow label or the product without the yellow label, and that becomes a risk. However, we should bear in mind that there's a grace period for the products that have been sold in the market, because some products entered into the market before all this regulation. So there's a moratorium for the sale up to 2026 for sale of the products that already entered into the market. However, importers are encouraged to test these products that have entered and make sure that we label them accordingly and the consumer can make an informed decision. So please, if you buy a product that is labeled and it doesn't serve your purpose, you have the right to report it to Energy Commission. We have the mandate to follow up with the dealer of the product and find out, because it can be a genuine concern. It could probably be that this product that has gotten the label from the Energy Commission is a factory defect. So we will tax the importer to do the needful by replacing that product or refunding if necessary, or repairing it if necessary. And so this is what we intend to do as far as the new regulation is concerned.
Thank you, but I think the last question that we have forgotten, the political interference.
Right. The political interference. So again, political interference. The experience Energy Commission has gotten is that political interference is just a mere interference. It is nothing extraordinary. A lot of us fall short because the Honorable Minister has called you on the phone and instructed that you do this. But the Honorable Minister needs to understand that these regulations were passed by Parliament. And so you do not have that mandate to use a verbal communication to go contrary to the regulation. And so if the Honorable Minister or whoever has called with political interference believes that he's that powerful, then it's easy for the person to put his request in writing so that it will be documented that this is the political person who wrote to the Energy Commission to release this contraband goods. And I'm telling you that so far, so good. People are abusing their powers, but they are not bold enough to put this request in writing. And that is what has worked for Energy Commission. And I believe that let's not always panic. Let's not always disrespect the politicians or whoever is calling, but put them to the task. If you believe you are that powerful to do this, then put it in writing. Let it be documented so that tomorrow posterity will be judging all of us that we did not just abuse our powers, but you took that opportunity to abuse your power, and it is in record. And I'm telling you that so far, nobody is doing that. For the calls, they keep on coming every day, but after we have told them to put it in writing, nobody is writing back to us. So this is what has worked for us, and we hope that it will continue to work for us as far as enforcement is concerned. And I believe other agencies can also use that as a strategy rather than just kowtowing to phone calls to take instructions and do things that are contrary. That will also cost their job if there are no records to back their decisions that they are taking.
Right. Thank you, Hubert.
Hello. Sorry, I raised an issue regarding the use of 110 or bringing 110 products. That requires that you use step down. And step down, usage of step down requires that, before you use these 110 appliances, you need to use a step down transformer. And step down transformer is a reactive component, and that introduces another inefficiencies onto the market. So I was mentioning this earlier before the line cut. So if you could kindly address that.
Okay, thank you, engineer. So again, standards, again, regulations. All these products that are coming in are because we didn't have these things in place. It's a standard now on the kind of products that should be coming into the market, and then the voltage and the frequency. In US, as you rightly mentioned, 110 is the voltage. However, in Ghana, we are dealing with 230. plus or minus 10. And so if you are bringing a 110 under the new regulation, and I must confirm that the new regulation on electrical wiring and electrical accessories has been passed by Parliament. And this was just passed in 2023. So there's now a new law on electrical wiring accessories and electrical wiring. So basically, this is the regulation we are going to use to enforce the standard that indicates that Ghana is 50 hertz and 230 plus or minus 10 voltage. And we think this is going to help the products that are coming into the country. Again, as part of the regulations, when you bring the test reports to us, we are able to see the cable connections and the cable heads or plugs. So we are able to tell the factory or the manufacturer that this head or cable plug is not acceptable for the Ghanaian market. And this is why the regulations are in place. So as I'm saying, the Energy Commission is here to play the role of a referee between the importer who has his money and wants to bring products into the market, to make sure that he is getting value for money. He's buying products that he will not have issues with consumers. He's buying products that will be value for money for the quantities that he's buying into the country. And the Commission will approve such products only on conditions that they meet the minimum requirement. So it is very clear now going forward with regulations that are here to back us and enforce all of this.
Thank you, Hubert. Yes, thank you for addressing those questions, and also for availing yourself for this presentation. Gedad, if you can mute yourself, please. And also, let me take the opportunity to thank everyone for being on board. We have overshot our time by 30 minutes. Sorry about that. So thank you all very much. We will send the presentation, the PowerPoint to everybody. We have your email, so we'll send it to everyone. And also, we hope that you'll be able to join our next webinar in September, next month. We're having another one. Thank you all very much. Thanks to my team, Kofi and Babel for this. Gedad, please mute your mic. So thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, Hubert, also for the presentation. Yeah. Any last words? Yeah.
Yes. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And as I mentioned, the Energy Commission and its doors are always open. We are available to engage for those who deal with SMEs. If there's a need, we create a platform and we'll be willing to engage some of these importers or SMEs to educate them about the provisions of the new regulations. As Paulina and GIF, the executive of GIF, have already offered, also take advantage to meet the agents, to educate them about the requirements, about the declarations and all of that. We have the opportunity to also meet importers. So importers will be met. We have the opportunity to educate customs. We are currently collaborating with customs to also understand the provisions because they are included as enforcement agencies. We'll be collaborating with the media. And so it is a big thing that we need to do. Everybody is involved. It's a national buy-in and everybody has a role to play, including you and I who are listening today. To download the app, have it in your products, make an informed decision when you go to the shop, and bear in mind that because there's a transition, there will be time for these products to comply. But you have an option to choose whether you want to buy a product without the label or a product with a label for which you are guaranteed. And you can follow up if you have an issue with it with the Energy Commission. So thank you very much once again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Hubert. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, do have a good day and a good weekend. We wish you well.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.